Hello, it's Bob Green up here, and we're just about to start the new member onboarding webinar, session one of 3 webinars we run to help BNI members and applicants to BNI chapters understand some of the things and strategies you need to do to be able to maximise your experience as a BNI member. And these are things that we don't necessarily cover in our member success program training. They're little areas that I've discovered over the years where people can get it wrong. And basically, I suppose, compromise their ability to make the most out of their experience. Before we get started, just a few introductions. My name, as I said, is Bob Greenup. I'm the Executive Director and Franchisee for BNI Sydney South and Sydney Central. So those 2 regions cover from Sydney Harbour down to Ulladulla and from the eastern suburbs out to Auburn. All of the chapters that populate in those particular geographic boundaries are supported by my team. We've got about a dozen or more people in our team: ambassadors, directors, support directors, training directors, launch directors, and ourselves, as well as admin staff, to help those 600 odd members on their journey. If you see any of the people that I've just mentioned visit your chapter, make sure you reach out and connect with them. They are there to help you in your journey as a BNI member, and many of them are existing BNI members of other chapters who have chosen to volunteer and step forward to help you and other chapters be successful as they are. They are typically people who are operating at the upper end of the success curve in terms of their BNI experience. So they've been down the journey of being able to work out how it all works and know how to make the most of it. In terms of the structure of BNI, this will explain a little bit more about what I've just explained. When we actually look at the different layers of organisation inside this fairly large cooperative, global cooperative, I'm just going to look at the regional area now, just in this specific region. There are around 21 regions in the whole country, and we're going to just specifically talk about the BNI Sydney Central and Sydney South region. We have a group in our community called the alumni. Now, the alumni are those people who have been members previously, and they do come and go. They go through various changes in their lives. People have kids, they change jobs, they sell businesses, they have relationship changes, all sorts of things happen in life, and they come and go out of our BNI community, and often people will go out for a couple of years and come back in again. We have people who have had continuous reigns of 15, 16, 17, 18 years experience in BNI. So all sorts of things happen in people's lives. So we do respect the fact that they are still part and parcel of who we are and what we are as a community. And they actually, more importantly, they actually shop inside our community. So having understood the way BNI works and understanding the way we have a peer-reviewed, accountable system, they still go searching inside the BNI community to find people when they actually need, whether it be web developers or IT people or accounting or bookkeeping or whatever. They'll often contact us and actually get an introduction to people inside the active community. Then, of course, we have the members, and obviously you are part of that particular group now, and the members are our primary focus, even though it's not the biggest part of that triangle. It just happens to be 90% of our focus. So the members are what we're here to support and make sure they get a good journey. Within the membership, there are people who are selected from time to time to serve on the leadership teams. Now, we're coming into what is basically the largest referral community on the planet. It has been set up originally back in 85 as a very large cooperative. So even though it's run as an enterprise, if you like, these days, the concept behind the way it was established was very much member-driven. Much of the rules and policies and so on of BNI were all determined by the members. And part of the whole structure was that the members wanted to be able to run their own chapters with the training and support and guidance from an organisation such as BNI. So the leadership teams that actually run your units come from the membership, and every member should have an expectation that at some point during their first few years as a member, they'll be expected to serve on the leadership team. Could be a president, vice president, treasurer, membership committee, visitor host, education, timekeeper, could be anything. So roughly about 12 to 15 positions, up to 20 positions can exist in a chapter to actually make the burden of actually running a chapter easier. The more people are involved in the running of a chapter, the easier it gets for everybody. When the leadership teams have reached their term, and typically terms are 12 months for a leadership term, team. Some of the people that actually have been in those leadership teams are selected to come onto the regional team. The regional team are the people I mentioned at the very beginning. These are the people that actually operate across chapters and go around and help other leadership teams and other members to be able to extract the most success out of their experience. So the regional team tend to be the top performers in the membership as well as in their leadership team experience. So those people are selected based on their ability to be able to contribute to other members and other chapters. They get more exposure, more education, more skills, and obviously do a lot more personal development than the general membership. So it's actually quite a good spot to be in. And of course, above that, you've got the executive director and the franchisee, which in this particular case is the same person. That's both myself and my wife, Louise. We are the franchisees and the executive directors of the BNI structure. So in terms of how that influences you, at the chapter level, you're going to come across, obviously, the leadership team. You would have met them. You would also have met, hopefully, you would have met your mentor coordinator. The mentor coordinator's job is to be there to help you find your way in the first 100 days of your membership. The mentor coordinator typically has a range of mentors that they have under their management, and there could be anything up to 9 or 10 mentors that they have actually recruited to be part of their mentor team. And the idea of those mentors is to give you tuition in at least 1 or 2 different elements of the BNI structure, philosophy, and the processes that actually make the BNI system work. We also have mentor webinars, which are available to the mentees. So we do cover this in the, I think it's session number 3, where we give you navigation exposure around all the different websites, but you'll be given links to go to the mentor webinars. These webinars are typically about 10 minutes long. They go through a specific element of the BNI system. It could be what the president's job is, what the vice president's job is, what the treasurer's job is, and so on. And the idea is that you would watch that webinar and then you would actually attend the mentoring session on that particular topic. That would actually give you an opportunity then to think about what you've seen. And as I say, they're only 10 minutes long, so they're not onerous or anything. And then you can have a discussion with the mentor to make sure you understand how that fits into your experience and into your journey as a BNI member. You'll come across those people every week, of course, because that's how often you are actually visiting your chapter. You'll also come across the ambassador and the chapter directors. Most chapters have an ambassador and a chapter director. Every chapter has a chapter director. Not every chapter has an ambassador. Just depends on how many ambassadors we have at the time. They typically come around the chapters every 4 to 6 weeks, and sometimes a little bit longer than that, depending upon the health of the chapter. When a chapter is in need of a lot of attention, that can be as little as 2 or 3 weeks, and the chapters that are big and healthy can be as long as 8 weeks. So typically 4 to 6 weeks is the average, though. So the chapter director and the ambassador are those people that have been trained a lot more intensively than the membership and even the leadership team, and they understand the system and some of the pitfalls of the system a lot more intensely than what anybody else does. So when you see those people come along, make sure you introduce yourself. They're your go-to people if the leadership team can't help you with a particular problem you're having, and you'll find them very accessible, very open, and very helpful for your journey. You'll also come across training directors when you do your member success program, when you do your leadership team training, and sometimes when you're doing advanced training. You'll come across training directors who may or may not be part of your normal chapter director team. So we have chapter directors who are both operate in support, they operate in launch, and they can operate in a training capacity. Sometimes we just have directors that just do training. So it just depends upon what their particular skill sets are and their experience and their bias in terms of what they enjoy. So you will come across some people doing the training, and sometimes we use overseas directors for doing training as well as national directors to come and do training. So you will meet those people where they've got specialty skills in being able to deliver different levels of education for the membership. So all of these people will have an influence over your journey. You'll find them very open to connect and very open to helping you have a good experience. So reach out, make sure you're connected. One of the people that you definitely need to make sure you've got sorted out is your relationship with your mentor coordinator. The mentor coordinator has to assign a mentor to your profile in BNI Connect. And once they've assigned a mentor to your profile, it will trigger a series of 8 emails, one a week, which will give you each of the 8 elements inside your passport system, which is part of your induction system, to give you, if you like, an email version of what you're going to hear in the mentor webinars, as well as from the mentor. So the idea of that is that you're getting it both in writing, you're getting it verbally or visually by watching the webinars, and you're getting it face-to-face from the mentors. So hopefully that three-pronged approach will be quite an important part of getting you up to speed, as well as getting access to the webinars and all those sorts of things in those emails. You'll also get the enrollment keys to be able to go onto the BNI learning platform, so you can do your member success program online, either before or after you've been to face-to-face training, preferably before, because you'll actually get a better experience out of your training. So it is important to get those emails, but they won't get triggered unless your mentor coordinator has gone in and set you up as having a mentor. Just be aware of that. First thing we want to go through is understanding what it is you bought when you bought a BNI membership, because what you would see is a lot of stuff going on in the chapter when it comes to activity and education and so on during the chapter meeting. But what you actually bought was not access to a BNI breakfast. It wasn't access to being able to sit at the table with a whole bunch of other business people. It wasn't access to the training. What you actually bought was the mutual commitment of all of the other members to invest and look after each other. You would be appreciative of the fact that when you applied to join a chapter, whether you're joining a new chapter or whether you're joining an existing chapter, there is a degree of due diligence that goes on for people to assess whether or not you are someone they can help. And roughly about 50% of applicants into a BNI chapter get accepted. The bigger the chapter, the lower the percentage. If you happen to get into a 50 or 60 member chapter, then you're one of probably 1 in 10 who have been accepted into that chapter. And the reason for that is that when the members are basically considering taking on an applicant into a chapter, they are taking a position where they are obligated, and they are obligating all of the other members of the chapter to invest in that individual. So it's a fairly big decision, and the bigger the chapter gets, the bigger the responsibility that comes with that decision. So when you're going through a membership committee of, say, five or 7 people who might be acting on behalf of 40 or 50 or 60 people, they have to be reasonably comfortable that the other members are going to want to invest their time, energy, networks, and reputations in the individual that they're accepting. So when people get declined, and obviously you're not on this call if you've been declined, but when people get declined, it isn't an insult to them as an individual or their business or anything like that. The chapter has to feel that they can provide value to the member they have accepted. So one of the things that sometimes people don't understand is BNI doesn't accept you. We don't make that decision. It is really all about the members saying that we are prepared to commit to this individual. We are prepared to take this person on knowing that we believe that we can help them and they can actually bring value to the table for the other members as well. So it's that mutual commitment that is really at the cornerstone of the product that you've purchased when you've acquired a BNI membership. So just be aware of that. It's everything you'll find about our policies, our procedures, our statistics, our tracking systems, our accountability is all about protecting the commitment that we're making to each other. That's the product. Which brings me to the BNI model, so you can understand how the model works. There are 3 primary legs to the model, which if you haven't already sort of worked this out, obviously attendance is a huge part of the model. We basically have one of the highest attendance requirements of any networking organization on the planet. We're looking for 100% attendance. We're prepared to accept 90% attendance. We actually average between 95 and 98% attendance, including when people have a substitute show up to represent them when they can't make a meeting. It's important to make as many meetings as possible. Having substitutes show up on your behalf is not the best strategy, particularly in your early part of membership. You're actually trying to establish your reliability, your credibility, and the trust that people need to have in you in order to be able to refer you. So showing up 100% of the time, certainly during that first 6 to 12 months, is a really, really important step, so that the people have got confidence that you're actually serious about it and that you're really committed to the process. So attendance is a huge part of what we do, and often we find that people will join in spite of the attendance policy, but it is actually one of the most attractive things that keep people there. When they realise that they're showing up every week and there's over 90% of the seats represented every time they walk in the room, that's a pretty compelling reason to be showing up each week, to be able to pitch to your marketing department to make sure that they're actually activated and educated about how to actually look after you. So attendance is huge. In your first year, I would do everything humanly possible to make sure that you could be there 100% of the time. Certainly getting that credibility and through that trust part of the know, like, and trust equation, that algorithm that works very well for generating referrals, absolutely critical to be in attendance. The second part that's important that may or may not have sunk in is that we invite people regularly from outside in the business community. Everybody is allowed to visit a BNI chapter at least twice in a 6 month, I shouldn't say at least, only twice every 6 months, unless they've submitted an application form. Once they've submitted an application form to join a chapter, they can continue to visit until that application form is determined. But until they've submitted an application form, they can only visit twice in 6 months. Some chapters have twice in 12 months. It's up to the chapter, but twice in 6 months is the guide that we issue. And the reason we actually invite people from outside to visit a chapter is not necessarily for recruitment. It is actually to expose the chapter to new networks. So the best way to think about this is that if you've got a 30 or 40 member chapter, and you want to obviously grow your network, you want to grow your influence in the broader business community, and everybody is inviting one person each month into the chapter with the constraint they can only visit twice in 6 months. What that means is over the course of a 12-month period, a 40-member chapter should have over 400 people visit who are new to the network. So if you've got a 40-member chapter and you've got 400 people who are visiting your network, your chapter, then you have an opportunity to build and extend your network by up to 400 people each year. So if you've been there for 4 or 5 years, then you've been exposed to a couple of thousand people that would have been quite difficult for you to access had you been trying to do that on your own. So if a 40-member chapter, you've effectively, and everybody pulls their weight and does the right thing, then essentially one person per month effectively gives you 100% of the result of inviting 40 people a month, as opposed to only inviting one, and you're only doing 2.5% of the effort. So it's a great leveraging tool. And the beauty of it is, rather than just meeting people in a cold calling situation, is that you're meeting them in the environment where it's a warm situation. They've been invited into a very friendly networking environment where people are really open about connecting and getting to know each other. So you're in a situation where those connections are actually a lot warmer than had you just made cold calls to the same extent. So it's a very powerful part of what we do. 30 to 40% of all the business that goes through a BNI chapter comes from the visitors who visit the chapter. And one of the things that people don't necessarily realize is that the reason that happens is because of the peer review accountable system we run inside the BNI chapter. This gets picked up pretty quickly by visitors. They understand pretty much by the end of the meeting that the people who are in this chapter have been selected. They're held accountable. We obviously expose the fact that we track all the statistics, we track all the activity, and that people are in the room because they're trusted and they have been given some degree of due diligence to be representative of their particular specialty in the room. So when you come along as a visitor and you have some need for a marketing person, a web person, or an accountant, or whatever it is that you need, you've got a higher probability of getting success by referring to the person in the chapter than just wandering around the marketplace trying to find somebody that somebody may be able to recommend or introduce you to. So it's a very powerful mechanism for getting visitors to be connected to members of a chapter and do business with them. So it's a really important part of what we do. The third part of what we do is the one-to-ones. The one-to-ones are totally fundamental to getting those relationships built. So we often talk about doing business with people we know, like, and trust. And getting that know, like, and trust in place comes through, obviously, the regular attendance that we talked about, but doing the one-to-ones is a very, very powerful way of doing it. We recommend you do 2 one-to-ones a week, at least 1, but 2 a week would be the ideal number. And you're typically doing them, particularly as a new member, you're doing them what we call in a one-way format. So someone would actually come and see you and learn about your business, but you wouldn't necessarily invest time in learning about theirs. But what you would do is you would reciprocate and make another appointment to go and learn about their business just by virtue of good manners. You would actually go and find out about their business. Or you would actually seek to do a one-to-one with somebody to learn about their business, and you would expect reciprocation to learn about your business. The reason we like to do one-way one-to-ones in the early stages as you're developing a relationship is it gives you a pure agenda. It gives you a pure focus. It allows you to dedicate your time on understanding their business model, doing some research on their websites, their LinkedIn profile, their marketing material, and really being, I suppose, focused on how you can help them rather than having another agenda where you're actually trying to sort of have 30 minutes each and trying to balance the amount of time you get compared to the amount of time they get. We just find that system works much, much better than trying to do it two-way until you've actually established your relationship. So how do we work out when we've established the relationship? The relationship gets established once you're actually starting to try to refer to each other. So once you can see someone's actually comfortable with your credibility, they're comfortable with your business model, they're comfortable to actually give you referrals, then you can start doing two-way one-to-ones and catching up with each other and just getting an update on what's been happening in the last month, what's happening in the next month, anything that's changed in your gains profile, and that's one of the structures we use for doing one-to-ones. But whenever you're doing one-to-ones, always make sure that they are structured. Don't try to wing it by just having casual coffee meetings without any agenda. These are business meetings, and if you approach these business meetings with some sort of an agenda, some sort of structure, some sort of an expectation that you're going to take some action out of that business meeting and that you're going to follow up on that action, then you'll get a much more productive experience out of the one-to-ones than if you just catch up for a cup of coffee just to acknowledge the fact you've done a one-to-one. And that does tend to be a bit of a problem with people actually just going into that default setting of just catching up and having a chat rather than having some sort of a structured approach to doing their business meeting. So doing a one-to-one with a member is a business meeting, and you do need to do some preparation for it. So just grabbing people at the end of a chapter meeting and say, oh, can we do a one-to-one, and not having any preparation is not the best strategy, and it won't serve you well. You're best to actually organise it several days in advance so that you can be prepared for it. You can exchange your documentation, exchange any information you need to know about each other, do a little bit of homework, and then you come into it to have a really focused 1 hour one-to-one. Could even be less than that, depending on how much preparation you've done. So one-to-ones are fundamental to the success of BNI chapters. When you get those one-to-ones right, you'll find the relationships are stronger, the understanding of each other's businesses are much deeper, and you'll find that the camaraderie that occurs inside a chapter is much more visible than what it is if the one-to-ones aren't done often or aren't done with the same degree of diligence. Of course, we approach the whole BNI chapter with a particular philosophy, and that philosophy is helping other people. We call it Giver's Gain. Giver's Gain is an essential part of the formula for making BNI work. So respect the fact that Giver's Gain is part of the culture, and you're not there to basically abuse the one-to-one opportunity and abuse that particular, I suppose, transparency that comes with the one-to-one. You're there to actually help wherever possible to move the other person forward in their particular business or personal life. So let's just talk about that for 1 minute. Some of the things that can go wrong with that particular part of the Giver's Gain culture, if you like, and the one-to-one, is if people are sitting down and they're actually looking to learn about somebody else's business, and they're, particularly in the early stages when you've come from a non-BNI environment, you're a brand new member, you will be tempted to find opportunities for you in the conversations you're having with somebody. So they'll be opening up and talking about what's going on in their business life, their personal life, and so on. And then you'll start be thinking about, actually, my business can do this and my business can do that for you. And you start going into a bit of a sales pitch that will definitely damage your ability to be able to build relationships. So you want to be very careful with that. Opening up and trying to use the one-to-one as a lever to be able to sell or promote your services will undermine what the purpose of the one-to-one is. The giver's gain culture is very, very important, and understanding how that works is critical to your success. The last one is team. We have a bunch of entrepreneurs, of course, in the chapter. All have got their own agenda and their own focus and their own priorities. And the interesting thing about entrepreneurs is they actually are usually entrepreneurs because they don't want to work for anybody else. And yet in a BNI chapter, they have to work collaboratively as part of a team. And it's an acronym for Together Everyone Achieves More. So entrepreneurs working together in a collaborative fashion as a team without actually being responsible for each other, but being accountable to each other. Quite a big difference. So that's a critical part of making it work, being able to be, empathize with other people in terms of the way they're doing their roles. They're all different. They all have a different style that they bring. When we put people into the leadership teams roles, it's not an election, by the way. We put them in based on their particular skill sets and their particular personality profiles, and we look for people who have got the right sort of behaviours to be able to either be the president, the vice president, all those types of things. They're all selected for what we know from experience works best in those leadership team roles. So we find it works pretty well, but certainly you have to take the view that you are part of a team, and you have to be on the team at times, and other times you have to be down sitting in the bleachers and basically taking instructions from the team. So just be aware that that's a critical part of the model. There's another version that you'll occasionally come across, and I'm only mentioning it because if you see it creeping into your chapter, then you want to be very, very wary of it occurring. As BNI directors, we're always looking out for this. The BNI Light model. The most visible part of a BNI chapter, of course, is coming to the breakfast meeting every week and showing up and attendance. So those things are very visible. So you'll see sometimes the chapters are actually doing that sort of thing. They're actually showing up. There's reasonable attendance, 90% plus of a meeting, and it looks like it's okay. But what is actually happening is that there aren't many visitors in the room. There might only be one or two visitors, if any, in the room. The one-to-ones are falling off, so people aren't doing as many one-to-ones as they should be. They might be only doing one every fortnight or one a month, and it doesn't happen in my chapters too much. When we see it happening, we're sort of pretty much straight onto it. But if you do see chapters as you travel around the BNI universe that fall into this sort of category, they'll end up imploding. They're quite an unstable sort of environment. You find that the business is going down. So instead of it being giver's gain, it's every man for himself, getting what you can possibly get. And the team starts to be very difficult to manage because people are quite desperate for business because the system isn't working. It's a very unstable model and it won't last very long. So when we see characteristics and behaviours that creep into this particular pattern, we're right onto it to actually make sure the chapter turns itself around and gets it back into the right process. BNI is a process that takes discipline, it takes accountability, it takes focus. And if people aren't focused on it, they will definitely fall into the BNI Light model. So how do we actually make sure that you actually get yourself onto the pathway to success? Get to your member success program as soon as possible. We recommend within 30 days. It's held every month, so sometimes that's not possible, and you might have to do it within 60 days. It is required to do it within 60 days. They're held every month, as I say, but you can go onto bnilearning.com.au and you can actually do the training online in order to be able to fill in the gap. We recommend you do the training online in advance of doing the face-to-face training, because when you do the online training, you'll actually get a better understanding of what's going to go on when you go to the face-to-face training. You'll be in a better position to ask questions. I'm just going to show you where that is on BNI Learning. So this is BNI Learning. Now, when you go into BNI Learning, you'll find that you'll need to create a new account. You'll see down here under the login, create a new account. The username and password that you were given to get onto BNI Connect Global has nothing to do with BNI Learning. BNI Learning is a separate platform to give you your own training and education online by BNI Australia, not by BNI Global. So when you go in, you're going to find that's an area called Members Learning and Resources Centre, and you'll find the Member Success Program in there. You'll also find BNI Connect guidance. So if you're struggling to work out how to get around BNI Connect, that will give you instructions there. But inside the Member Success Program, which is what I'm going to focus on today, you'll see all of the different modules that we cover in the face-to-face training. And if you go through this, it can take you about an hour or so to actually go through it. You've got little videos, you've got audio files, Word files, PDF files, all nice and neatly laid out here. So you can go through all of this stuff and then go along to the face-to-face training with a degree of preparation, which is going to stand you in good stead in terms of being able to absorb that training. You will need an enrolment key to get into that. The enrolment key varies from time to time, so I'm not going to quote it here, but it is in your email, your welcome email. Make sure you have that enrolment key at hand when you've set up your login. When you register to go in, your registration request will go to BNI head office. They'll verify that you're a member, and they'll give you permission to go into the site, and then you'll need your enrolment key to actually access any of those programs. If for some reason you're having trouble finding the enrolment key, just pop me an email and we'll send it to you and give you an update. But usually your mentor coordinator knows what it is anyway. The idea of Member Success Program is to get your head around the VCP process, the visibility, credibility, profitability process. So that's the process by which you actually get the know, like, and trust in place and get you on the road to profitability. And also, we also cover all the sort of right behaviours that basically build your credibility and trust as a BNI member, how to do your weekly presentation and how you should structure it so that you are training your marketing department, not trying to sell to your marketing department, and all the success factors which will help you get along the pathway to getting you as a successful referral partner. So it's a really core part of your investment. So 4 hours of training, plus the online training, plus these webinars are all going to give you all of the tools you need to be able to set yourself up to have a good journey as a BNI member. In terms of things you can do straight away, go on to BNI Connect and check your profile out and make sure that you've got your profile set up. Now, I'm just going to give you a quick look at what that means. So when you actually go into BNI Connect, what's going to happen is it's going to populate the public profile. So let's just find any member. I'll just look for, let's say, a painter. I'm not going to pick on anybody on the call here today. Let's just pick on Martin. Okay, so Martin's got some of his profile done up. He's got his photo done. He's got some information here. He's got a logo up. He hasn't got very much information here at all. So that isn't well populated. So let's find another one to give you. So that's at the bottom end of the scale in terms of what you could be doing. Here's Wendy. He's one of my training directors. Let's have a look at Wendy's. And that's what she's got done. So Wendy's got an engaging photo up here. She's got all of her contact details, all of her social media links set up. She's got her logo set up, her business name, a good description around her business. She's got a brief little video here, which explains what she does. She's down here. She's got the ideal referral she's looking for, her top product, top problem solved, her favorite BNI story, and her ideal referral partner. So that's the sort of extent you should be going to make sure you've got your profile set up. You set that profile up in BNI Connect Global. So when you actually go into BNI Connect, when you go in and you go to your home page, and so the whole website is driven from in here. This is your home page. Go to Update Profile My BNI page. And you'll find there are half a dozen tabs across the top here that'll come up. And all you need to do is work through each of these tabs and fill in the details and whatever permissions you give. So you just go through and fill up all this information in here, and logos, photos, all that sort of thing. Information. This is all the information like your gains profile, your tops profile, all of this sort of thing. All of these things will basically, and you can work out where you want what you want to be visible out there on the public site. Okay, and your communication options and so on. So once you've done all that, it will actually populate through to the public site. Also, make sure your website is up to date. So one of the things you're doing is you're building a know, like, and trust sort of relationship with your referral partners. Everything that supports what you say you do has to basically be resonating with your message and what you're trying to promote. So your website has to basically be well representative of what you say you're trying to actually attract in terms of clients. I'll give you a little story there. I had a web developer some years ago. I had a referral for them. It was a $30,000 referral, and that $30,000 referral needed to be actually given straight away. So I had a particular web developer in mind who I thought was a great fit for this referral. And I thought, before I give him the referral, I better go and check his website out, because I've got to actually give the details to the client anyway. So I better do my homework and check out his LinkedIn profile, check out his website. Went to his website, and his website was under construction, which meant that I couldn't refer him, and I had to find another person to refer to. I told him afterwards that he just missed out on a $30,000 referral because his website wasn't finished. He had his website done 3 days later, but it was too late for that particular referral. So you really do need to make sure that everything you've got going in your marketing space about your public profile is going to really reinforce how you're trying to promote yourself at the chapter. Your LinkedIn profile is also very important, making sure that you've got that populated, you've got it really reflecting who you are, and it does actually stand up to scrutiny. So when people refer you, they can comfortably know that people doing research on that referral are going to be comfortable that that referral was sound and bona fide. All your business collateral, business cards, email address, and all that sort of thing all need to be able to be supportive of your referral partner so that when they actually do it, they feel comfortable about it. And the last one I've got on here is your product and service clarity. What you need to do is really understand, and sometimes, actually I'm surprised how many people get this wrong. They really do need to understand what their products do, how they fit different target market demographics, what are the needs they satisfy in the marketplace, and what sort of solutions you're providing that you can articulate to your referral partners. This is an important part of your education of your referral partners so they can market you correctly. If you don't understand how your products basically satisfy people's problems and how those solutions can be articulated to people in the marketplace, you're not going to be able to train your referral partners. So really important to get clarity around all of those products and services you've got. And often you might only have 2 or 3 different products or services, but you actually might have within those 2 or 3 products or services a dozen different target market demographics who get different things out of those same products and services. So you need to be able to drill down and work out, looking at your past clients and clients you'd like to actually service, what sort of things that different people get out of your products. And sometimes the products are exactly the same product, but different people are actually getting different values out of them. So it's an important part of your own diagnosis of your own business to make sure you can communicate that to your relatively untrained marketing department so they can understand how to recognize the business opportunities for you. So they're the things you can do immediately to get onto that. The These are fundamental things you should be doing as soon as possible. When it comes to getting your profile up and running, not only should all of the electronic stuff be up to speed, but your presentation should also reinforce your pitch. Because every time people have a meeting with you, seeing with you, talking with you, you're articulating your thoughts, I hate to say it, but you're being judged. You're being assessed. They are working out whether or not you're going to be somebody that they can put in front of their client. So what you're trying to do, the ultimate destination you're trying to get to, is to get your referral partners to put you in front of their network. So there on the other side, those people are looking at you and saying, do I want this person in front of my network? Are they going to enhance my credibility, or are they going to diminish my credibility? So making sure your presentation does all of the things necessary to protect the other person's reputation is critical. I'll give you another story here. I had a case some years ago now. I had a member of a chapter who kept on complaining he wasn't getting the referrals he wanted. He was a corporate recruitment guy. So he used to do a lot of recruitment in the sort of upmarket section. And he used to rock up to his chapter meeting in a tracksuit. And I couldn't believe it. I was sitting in his chapter meeting one day, and I saw he was standing there in a tracksuit, and he's pitching towards being introduced to particular end of the corporate market and a particular sector in the corporate market. And I said to him after the meeting, why do you think you're not getting referrals? He said, I don't know. Everybody seems to like me. I seem to get on with everybody. I said, well, let me put it to you like this. You come into the meeting every week. You're either dressed in tracksuits or jeans, and you're pitching to a market that just simply doesn't resonate with. All of these people in the room are trying to pitch you in front of their clients the way you present each week. So when you come to the chapter meeting, you need to present the way you would like to be seen to present to the best client you're going to go and expect to get to. If you rock up with a very casual attitude, a very sloppy attitude at your chapter meeting, that is precisely how you're positioning yourself to your target market. And your referral partners are seeing that is what you're going to do when they refer you. So you really do need to be very conscious of that. What happens with BNI chapters is people get very comfortable with each other, they get very relaxed about it, and they treat each other like mates. But unfortunately, this is a business venture, and in a business environment, they may actually go and have a drink with you, but they may not refer you to their clients if they don't think you're going to cut the mustard in terms of your presentation. Every assessment that you're going through with your referral partners is part of what's called a 4-7-11 equation. And the 4-7-11 equation is effectively the way it is a formula of interaction that takes you from being a stranger through suspect, through prospect, through to a client. The 4 refers to the number of different places you get recommended from. So to get to, this is a Google piece of research that was done some years ago to find out what it takes to take somebody from a stranger through to a client. And they found that people generally had to get endorsements about you or your business from 4 different sources. They needed to have spent roughly 7 hours in positive investigation. So 7 hours of investigation that yielded a positive feedback around what you do, how you do it, and how well you do it. And that could come from a whole range of different sources. It could be coming from internet searches. It could be coming from physically going to a BNI meeting and having a good experience there. It could be seeing you at a networking event. It could be a presentation you do. It could be all sorts of things in terms of building up that 7 hours. They could have just done research on your industry. It could be building up into that 7 hours. And they have to have 11 different points of reinforcement in a positive sense about your business. And it could be newsletters, testimonials, it could be a newspaper article about your business. It could be anything that reinforces that those 11 points of contact should be things that are reinforcing the positivity around your business. So once they've had that 4 different sources saying you're a great business or great person, they've spent 7 hours of investigation into your particular model, and they've had 11 different points of contact, none of which are negative, then they are then at the point where they are now a client and potentially an advocate. So if you think about that, when people come along to a BNI chapter, the BNI chapter typically lasts for a couple of hours. So if somebody comes along for a couple of meetings, then they've spent 4 hours of interaction with you in a positive environment. You catch up with them for a one-to-one. That might be another hour. Then you have a few conversations with them. You would send them a proposal. So they might have, after a couple of BNI meetings, a couple of sort of meetings with them, you'll be getting close to your 7 hours. And if they've actually been able to get endorsements from 4 other people, so in the chapter meeting, you might have 3 or 4 testimonials from other members that can actually tick off the 4. And provided they're getting other positive information about you from other sources to make up the 11 interactions, you can very quickly move a visitor from a stranger through to a prospect, through to a client. And that's why that BNI model works with the visitor thing. But every time you do something wrong, whether it be the way you dress, the way you speak, the way your marketing collateral doesn't stack up, the way your website doesn't work, all of those sort of things, every time you do something wrong, it takes 10 times the effort to actually correct it and get back on the playing field again. So as I said before, make sure you've got your profile right on BNI Connect by going through BNI Connect Global, and that'll actually populate all of that stuff correctly. Make sure all your one-to-one forms are structured and complete. So during when you go through BNI Connect Global and you fill in all that information, you'll find all of that information is accessible to your network, the people in your chapter, and they can actually do some research on you when they're actually getting ready for a one-to-one, so that they're ready to actually ask you the questions that are going to be able to help them help you. Make sure you've got that clarity around your target market demographics, what sort of questions they should be asking of their target market, of their network, to open up the doors for you, what sort of solutions and testimonials and stories can you share with them so that they can actually share those with prospective clients. All of those sorts of questions need to be addressed in order to be able to get you accelerated into the right space. Your LinkedIn profile, when you do that, where it's got under Wendy's name there, candle lady, musician, etc., the sort of things you don't put in there would be manager, CEO, business owner, things like that. They're very generic terms. They don't help you being found on LinkedIn. So you want to put down what you do. And when you do your information, your summary of your profile, talk about the solutions you provide rather than facts and advantages and benefits of dealing with your particular product or service. So how do you solve people's problems should be your focus. And obviously building out your LinkedIn profile so you've got compelling recommendations and so on. So in fact, I'll just do a quick look at Wendy's here right now, just to give you a better idea. Let's have a quick look at Wendy's LinkedIn profile. And I'm using her because she actually took on board all the training we did and actually really took it seriously and did a great job of her profile. So she's a really good example of what you should be doing. So let's fill in Wendy. There she is. Okay, here's Wendy's profile here. Okay, so when we go down through Wendy's profile, she's got all her experience down here, what she does. She's obviously very keen on singing and stuff. Education, recommendations. She's got 15 plus those two, so she's got a total of 17 recommendations. All of these are really important to make sure you've got those in there. Things that she's accomplished, what her interests are, and so on. So make sure you fill that out as comprehensively as possible, so it makes it easy for people to be able to get to know you when they are referring you. Website should be engaging, easy for people to really understand what it is you do, and easy to connect with you and capture a connection through your contact system in your website. So let's go on to, I'm getting a bit tight for time here, so I'm going to move on. The next thing that you need to be aware of is that now that you've joined BNI, you've actually entered into a credibility environment where people are going to be assessed for whether they actually do what they say they do. So there's the things called the PALMS or CATS review, which you need to be aware of. PALM stands for present, absent, late, medical, or substitute. So it's an acronym for just monitoring whether people show up, whether they show up on time and so on. But it's actually something measured every single week inside the BNI environment. And the other thing we measure is what activity you generate. So RGI means referrals given internally. RGO is referrals given outside. RR is referrals received. V for visitors. TYFCB is thank you for closed business. And one-to-ones obviously are one-to-ones. And this reflects the activity you're doing inside the chapter, apart from obviously showing up. And what it does, it actually builds itself into a single score called the CAT score. The CAT stands for Chapter Accountability Tracking System. And a CAT score should be running at roughly 14 points per month in order to be reflective of somebody who is participating at the right level in a BNI chapter. If you're doing all of the things necessary, showing up on time, doing one-to-ones, a couple of one-to-ones a week, inviting a visitor a month, all those sorts of things, that you'll find that actually doing some CEUs, chapter education units, it's not hard to get to 14 points per month. If you are seen as somebody who is actively engaged in doing that sort of activity, then other members are going to see you as an active participant, and they are more likely to want to invest their time in you. If you are not seen as an active participant, they won't bother. They simply won't bother, because they don't see you as being a long-term investment. So it's really important you're seen as being an active participant to attract the people that you want to build relationships with, so they will spend time with you and get to know you with you. The other thing you're going to get is the member traffic lights, which is not quite the same as the CATS scoring system. This comes out every month, and every member basically gets a rating on the traffic lights. The traffic lights come out as a green score, a yellow score, a red score, or a grey score. The grey score is pretty bad, let me tell you. But typically, most chapters have got green, yellow, or red. And what you're looking for in these scoring sheets is to make sure that you've got activity which is reflecting enough activity to get you up in the green or at least the yellow. And we give you a scoring as a scoring algorithm that we use to reflect how we rate your attendance, your referrals per week, your one-to-ones per week, how many visitors you're bringing, and how much chapter education units you're doing each week. The closed business does not reflect in this score. It's only the activity, whereas in the chapter accountability tracking system, the CAT system, we take into account the closed business you're generating. So the traffic lights only reflect your activity, not your closed business. Here's the scoring system. And it's actually, this comes out to every single member every month. So if you go to the end of your scoring sheet, you'll find at the end of the monthly summary that you get each month, at the last page, you'll find the scoring sheet. So you don't need to memorize this. It's all there. But you get basically different point levels for attendance, referrals per week, one-to-ones, chapter education units, and average visitors per month. And all of those different scores get added up, and that gives your traffic light scores. And this particular report here shows you how many members in that particular chapter were in the green. There was only 8% in the green, 21% were in the yellow, 35% in the red, and 35% in the grey. So this chapter is not doing particularly well. 35% in the grey is appalling, to be honest. It should be much higher than that. There shouldn't be anybody in the grey, to be frank. So I deliberately put that one in so you are aware there actually are grey members as well. So have a good look at that. Members will invest in other members who are higher in the traffic light score. And we know for a fact that the members who are in the green do between 5 to 10 times the amount of business of members in the red. Members in the green do 5 to 10 times the amount of business of members in the red. So it comes back to what I'm saying. Members will invest in those members that are seen to be active. You can also get your weekly presentations into BNI Connect Global. So pick a couple of weekly presentations you'd like to put on BNI Connect Global, and that actually also helps your other members understand what it is you're looking for. And certainly you want to be putting some time into this. We spend quite a lot of time in Member Success Program, making sure you structure your weekly presentation so that it cuts through and you have clear, specific referral requests. So, wrapping up, get your connections in order. Most chapters have got a closed private Facebook group. Join that chapter Facebook group so you can keep up to speed and build those relationships in the Facebook group. Nobody else can see those comments other than the chapter. Connect up with the other members in your chapter on LinkedIn. I would do that as soon as you possibly can. Connect up with our Facebook page, Sydney Central, BNI Sydney, as soon as possible. We have got an active group of both current members and ex-members on LinkedIn. 3195950 is the group number. If you want to connect to that, now that you're a part of our community, I'd certainly like to see you connect up with me on LinkedIn. I only connect up with people who are either part of my community or people I know I have a relationship with. So I'm more than happy to take you on board as one of my connections. And obviously inside BNI Connect, you've got 200,000 members who are connected on BNI Connect. We go through on one of our other webinars on how to actually use BNI Connect to connect up with groups around the globe. And they could be people who are in the same industry as you that you want to just share insights and industry knowledge with and just get into some sort of conversation. There's a lot of active groups out there that you can connect up with. So hopefully that gives you your starting point on how to actually get moving with your experience with being a BNI member. Let's see if they've got any questions here today. I've just got one question that's popped up that I will answer. I've got some other questions that I'll answer via email, but this particular question relates back to the BNI learning thing. It does confuse people. The password to get into BNI learning is not the same password that you've been given. So make sure that you actually understand you set up your own username and your own password to go on to BNI learning, and it gets then ratified by head office, who then lets you into BNI learning, and you will need those enrollment keys which come out as a result of the mentoring emails, which only get triggered when the mentor sets you up with a mentor in BNI Connect. So if for any reason you're not getting your emails, make sure you grab hold of the mentor coordinator and get them to set you up in BNI Connect. If you've got, there's a couple of other questions there I'll just handle directly via email back to you because we're right on the top of the timeline. If you've got any questions that come to mind after this, just pop me an email at bob@bnisc.com.au. More than happy to actually help you out at any stage during your journey, and come and say hello if I happen to be around the meetings when you're there. I would love to actually meet up with you at some point in time. No other key, just looking through some of these other questions, there's no other key questions there that I think I can just handle directly via email. So we'll wrap this up for now. And thank you for joining us. Session number 2 and session number 3 are also different topics and we delve into different depths on different topics on those other 2 webinars. So make sure you do all 3 of them, as well as your member success program as soon as you can. We want you to be successful just as much as you do. Thank you for joining us today. I'll see you around a chapter soon. Bye for now.